the scent of dandelions and blood. The stench of stale beer and the grimy sweat clung to the inn, the shattered skull like a second skin. My long ears twitched as I let the creaking door fall shut behind me. I hated places like this. Too many smells, too many eyes. I felt them all. The scratch of coarse wool against their coats, the damp hay on the floor that crunched under my paws with every step. But above all, I felt their fear. Sweet, pungent, undeniable. They saw me. Whoever looked at me saw the ears first. White, silky, almost translucent, with delicate pink insides that twitched and listened incessantly. Then the nose, that small pink twitching nose that never stopped scenting. Then the fur, snow white, except for the black tip of my right ear. They saw the soft bundle of fluff dangling from my leather belt, that ridiculous fluffy tail that followed my every move. And then they saw the knife. The blade was almost as long as my torso, black as the deepest night in the ancient woods, and it bore more notches than an old dice cup. They saw the scars that stretched like a torn map across my bare forearms, where the white fur no longer grew back. They saw the cold, blood-red gleam in my eyes, not the frightened, skittish red of prey, but the glossy, well-fed red of freshly spilled life. Then they knew why they called me the White Death, why the guild feared me, why I charged 3 times what other bounty hunters demanded for the same job. I hadn't chosen to be this way. In the birthplaces of the demi-humans, you are born with a role. The wolf is the hunter, the fox the trickster, the bear the crusher, and the hare is the prey, the victim, the fluffy little thing you cuddle in your arms and stroke before you snap its neck. I kept my neck by cutting the throats of others first. Wren? The name fell like a wet rag onto the wooden counter. The innkeeper, an old goat demi with tired eyes and a greying beard, shoved a leather pouch across the counter toward me. The jingle of coins inside was music to my ears, my overly sensitive large ears that caught the faintest rustle of currency. "The client is upstairs. Room 3. He says it's urgent." I gave a short nod. My paw closed around the pouch, and I felt the warm, pulsing life of the money. It smelled of iron and sweat. Jobs always smelled of iron and sweat, sometimes the one, sometimes the other. Room 3 was a tiny chamber. A single tallow candle flickered on the table, making the shadows dance like desperate souls along the walls. The client was a bird demi. A raven, if I wasn't mistaken. His plumage gleamed greasily in the candlelight, and his coal-black eyes surveyed me with a mixture of disgust and calculation. He hated me. They all hated me, but they needed me. "The striped squirrel baron has had his nephew kidnapped," he croaked without preamble. "He pays 500 gold pieces for his safe return." "500 is a joke," I said quietly. My voice was surprisingly deep for a rabbit demi. It came from a chest crisscrossed with countless scars. "Double it, or I walk." The raven flinched. He wanted to protest, but my ears flattened against my skull, an instinctive sign of aggression that, in my kind, usually meant fear. In me, it meant death. He muttered something unintelligible, but then pulled a second, heavier pouch from his cloak. 1,000, but you bring him back alive. The Baron wants his personal vengeance." I snatched the gold. "He'll be breathing. Whether he keeps all his limbs depends on his cooperation." I turned around and left him standing. The stairs groaned under my bare feet. I never wore shoes. I had to feel the ground, every vibration, every heartbeat that pulsed through the floorboards. My paws were as scarred as my arms, the soles as hard as leather. Outside in the night, I pulled my cloak tighter around me. The moon hung high, a razor-sharp sickle that felt strangely familiar. I breathed in the night air. The world smelled of damp leaves, resin, and a faint, sweet hint of wilting dandelions. The smell of my childhood, a scent I hated, a scent I never wanted to smell again. I followed the trail. That was my gift, or my curse. My nose was sharper than any hunting hound's. I caught the faint, citrus-like scent of the little striped squirrel boy mixed with the acrid stench of tar and rotting straw. The kidnappers were professionals. They had hidden the child in an old warehouse by the riverbank. I crept soundlessly across the rotten planks of the pier. My ears swiveled like small radar dishes, catching every noise, the scratch of a rat, the groan of a ship's rope, the quiet, suppressed sobbing of a child. 3 guards, 2 in front of the door, 1 on the roof. Easy. I drew my knife. The blade whispered as it left the sheath. I was fast, so damn fast. That was the only thing my rabbit demi-heritage had given me, that insane, explosive speed. In the time it took a wolf to blink, I could land 3 strikes. The first guard fell without ever hearing the whistle of my blade. The second turned around. Too late. My knife was already at his throat. I smelled his sweat, his fear. His eyes pleaded with me. I froze for a moment. Still, after all these years, I still had to hesitate for just a second before I struck. But I struck, because I knew they would never forgive me if I showed weakness. The world had taught me that a hare that doesn't bite is a dead hare. The child was sitting in a corner. He was trembling, his stripes matted, but he was unharmed. I said nothing. I cut his bindings, lifted him onto my shoulders, and carried him out. He smelled of fear and of the sweet syrup he had been eating. The handover the next morning was wordless. The Baron was a fat marten with greedy eyes. He tossed me the gold without looking at me. I was just a tool, a dirty but necessary tool. I retreated to the forest, to my solitude. I had a small hut deep in the thicket where no dandelions grew, where everything was barren and hard, just like me. But then the letter came. No envelope, just a folded piece of parchment pinned to my door with a dagger. The smell on it made my blood run cold. It smelled of winter fir, pine needles, and a deep, primal warmth, the scent of a predator, a wolf. The handwriting was precise, almost beautiful. Wren, the White Death, I have a job for you, one that will make you rich. Come to the old bridge over the Shadow River. At the full moon, come alone. K. I should have ignored it. I had always ignored jobs from unknowns, but that scent, the scent of that wolf, drew me like a moth to a flame, or like a hare to the juiciest meadow. It was stupid, life-threatening, and yet I stood on the old bridge at the full moon. The Shadow River roared far below me. The moon reflected silvery in the black water, and there, at the other end of the bridge, he stood. He was tall, much taller than me. His fur was a deep steel gray, interwoven with black streaks that ran across his body like liquid shadows. His ears were pointed and erect, his tail heavy and bushy behind him. But it was his eyes that pinned me in place. Gold, hot, liquid gold that pierced right through me. "Wren," he said. His voice was deep, rough, a growl that seemed to vibrate deep within his chest. "You have quite the reputation." I placed a paw on my knife handle. "You have 10 seconds to tell me who you are and what you want before I cut your tongue out of your mouth." He smiled, a smile that bared his pointed fangs. It wasn't a friendly smile, but it wasn't a threatening one either. It was the smile of someone who had finally found something interesting. "My name is Kael. I am the prince of the northern pack, and I fled my palace 3 weeks ago because my father wanted to marry me, off to a scoundrel." He took a step closer. I caught the wind blowing from him. He smelled of freedom and danger. "The crown has placed a price on my head, a fortune, enough gold to buy yourself a small army." I snorted. My nose twitched. "And you want me to catch you and turn you in? That's a new trick." "No," he said. Now he stood only 2 arms' lengths away. I had to tilt my head back to look him in the eyes. The size difference was ridiculous. A hare and a wolf. Nature was laughing at me. "I want you to protect me, hide me from them. And in return, I'll give you something more valuable than gold." He opened his hand. In his large, scarred paw lay a small, glittering amulet. It was a dandelion, crafted from pure moonstone, and it began to glow softly in the light of the full moon. My heart, that damned cold piece of flesh in my chest, skipped a beat. Where did you get that?" I whispered. My voice trembled. It trembled. I hadn't trembled in years. "It was lying beside the corpse of a rabbit demi-woman," Kael said gently. "She was in a mass grave at the edge of the king's wood. She was clutching this pendant in her hand, and there was a note with it. For my son, Ren, so he will always find his way home." The world spun. My mother. I had never known her. They had told me she ran away when I was still a baby, that I was a bastard, an accident, that she had abandoned me, and now I was holding her legacy in the hands of a wolf. Tears burned in my red eyes. I let the knife drop. Why are you giving me this? You could blackmail me with it." Kael stepped even closer, so close I could feel the heat radiating from his body. He smelled of moss, of cold wind, and of something deep, unfathomable. "Because I need a hunter who isn't for sale, Ren. I've heard your story. You kill, but you don't torture. You take jobs, but you let innocents live. You're no monster. You're a hare who pulled the wool over his own eyes just to survive." His hand, that large wolfish paw, rose slowly. I didn't flinch. It came to rest gently on my cheek. The touch was electrifying. My entire fur bristled, but not from fear. It bristled from a feeling I hadn't felt since childhood. Intimacy? "Let me help you," he whispered. "Let me be the one who protects you, instead of you always fighting for everyone else." I closed my eyes. I smelled the dandelion in his hand. I smelled the blood on my own paws, and I smelled something new. Hope. We fled. The hounds of the northern pack were hot on our trail. We fought side by side, the wolf and the hare. It was grotesque, a bad joke. But we were unstoppable. His strength, my speed. His tracking, my ears. In a small cave, deep in the mountains where the snow swallowed the scents of our pursuers, we settled down to rest. Kael had a wound on his shoulder. I treated it with the meager supplies I had. My paws, which had so often struck out, were now gentle, careful. He looked at me, that golden glow in his eyes, and I knew I was lost. "Ren," he said quietly. His breath brushed over my ears. My rabbit ears, so sensitive, twitched and felt like they were burning. "You're trembling." "I'm cold," I lied. He smiled. This time it was a soft smile, without teeth. "Come here." I let myself sink into his arms. His fur was soft, much softer than I had imagined. His heartbeat was deep and steady. I laid my cheek against his chest and listened. I, the fearsome white death, lay in the arms of a wolf and felt safe for the first time in my life. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice choked by all the unspoken years. "I'm a hare. I'm your prey. In every damned fable, I'm the victim." Kael rested his chin on my head between my twitching ears. "Not in this story," he whispered. "In this story, you are the hero. You saved me before you even knew who I was. You showed me the way." He kissed me. It was just a light pressure of his lips on my forehead, right above my nose, but it felt as if an entire summer of blooming dandelion meadows was flooding through my body. I didn't know what the future would bring. Maybe they would find us. Maybe we would have to run to the ends of the earth. But I knew one thing with deadly certainty. I would never be alone again. I used to smell the blood of my enemies. Today, I smelled his scent, the scent of home. And I decided that this scent was the only one I would follow forever. I, Wren, the rabbit Demi, the feared blade of the underworld, had finally arrived. Not at the end of a bounty, but at the destination of my heart.